people have a goal in mind, and as we start moving towards it, it always brings up all the horrible stuff, because change is always uncomfortable, even when it's what we want. It can often feel like one step forward, two steps back, but instead what it actually is, it's like a big step forward and a small shift back. What I often see that's limiting for people is they're either given some information, but information without skill and ability doesn't work. Or they're given the skill, but they're not given the understanding of why it actually matters and how to achieve the long-term change.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Modern Journey podcast. I'm your host Hamza, and I am joined by my favorite clinical psychologist of all time, Dr. Matt Slavin. Hello, Dr. Matt.
Hey, that's very nice.
Of course, but it's true though. It's true. Nice but true. How have you been?
Good. Yeah, really good. Since we last met, I've moved overseas.
I know. I'm going to ask you about that. Okay. I'm definitely going to ask you about that. But yeah. Oh, good. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you are quite busy at the moment because you're visiting and you're doing a quick trip. And I just want to say how honored I am that you've made the time. I know it's, rushed, but I really appreciate it. And I'm sure the viewers will as well. So thank you so much for
you're really welcome.
coming. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I know since the last time we spoke on season 1, you have moved. Not just you've moved your whole family to New Zealand. How has that gone for you beyond what we'll see or expect on Instagram or, the pretty version? Yeah,
well, it's been a really, it's a life change. So life change is a hard question when someone says how's New Zealand? Because there's it's great. The beaches are lovely. It's nice to live near the water. It's nice that I'm doing more exercise and my life feels very more outdoorsy. But it's life. So life isn't all beautiful and rainbows. It's all colors of everything. So life, it's felt like a really good move for us, but it's still very early days. We've only been there for 3 months.
Fair. And I know you love that. You love the outdoor element of it. You're a rock climber, which I know you do like working in nature. So the move must still feel organic, and it's a little bit like home as well for you.
It does. And my wife's side of the family are all from the local area we live in now.
Oh, nice.
So it's like we are going from one side of the world to the other side of the world, but we're stepping into my nieces and nephews, my in-laws, that side of family, and also a lifestyle that I've been lucky enough to go back and forth to New Zealand quite a bit over the years because life has taken us over there. Of course. And it feels really nice. It does feel like life in New Zealand feels a lot slower than London. And actually that's at this stage of life when I've got a young family, it's actually really nice to have this environment which is take your time. Kids don't have to grow up so fast as London. And when I'm not working, I find it easier already. I find it easier to just be.
I love that.
Which is sometimes hard when we're so busy in the kind of the London swing of things.
London is London. It's so busy. It's so crazy, especially when you get to the touristy bits. So I absolutely agree, especially when you have a young family. It's nice to be somewhere where you can take your time, where it's not as rushed or as busy. Because life itself is busy, right? So why surround yourself with even more busyness if you can help it?
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. So I wonder, what has this season of your life taught you about change and building a life that is actually sustainable?
One thing it's definitely shown me is about the idea of sustainability. Is you can't go 100 miles an hour all the time. I'm a clinical psychologist, as you mentioned at the start, which means that I did a very long time training, and training's very intense to be a psychologist, a clinical psychologist.
I can imagine.
So you spend when you're doing your doctorate, which is kind of your like being a medical doctor, the overlap of, you could think of it as you're doing your rounds and you're getting different experiences while also doing your exams at the same time. We get 3 years on a doctorate where we're working and studying and writing a PhD at the same time. And then from there, once I graduated, I then wanted to push my career forward, and then stepped into busy systems, and then worked in social care, NHS, then I went into private practice, and life has just been full pace for 10, 11 years, really. And so I knew that's not sustainable. I could feel I wasn't looking after my health as well. Or, so much of my job is sitting down, and I speak about this a lot. A lot of my clients are very busy professionals, and actually we need to work out how to rest and work to find times of fast pace, but then also slowing down. And this chapter season is really, for me, it's intentionally about making that balance better. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm guessing as well with your business side of things, has that taught you that no matter where you are, that sustainability needs to be across all sectors of your life as well?
Yes, but it doesn't have to be all things at the same time. I think that's something that people try and find, like the perfect routine and balance.
Yeah.
And that often looks
I'm
like
one of those people.
Okay.
But yeah.
And I've got some clients who have lots of operating systems that kind of look and track every measure of life because, they want to maximize their life to the best of their abilities. But it's very hard to do everything at the same time in the way that you want. Instead, I would think about it as seasons, or think about it as there's times where you're going to have a deadline for a month, and that month you're not going to be able to do as much exercise or as much social time. There might be a time where you have a newborn kid, or there might be a time when you make a big international move. And so over the course of months or the year, there needs to be compensation time.
Yeah.
So that balancing act, yes, but it's a very hard balancing act to feel like you do everything. Otherwise, you can go into kind of shame-induced patterns of I should be doing this thing and I feel bad that I'm not, and I'm meant to be going to the gym one more time this week and I couldn't, and you find yourself in a very self-critical pattern.
Especially when you are a self-proclaimed perfectionist, you always want to find the perfect way to do everything, but perfection doesn't really exist. I like to feel like it's a concept of our imagination, because we want to be perfect, or someone like me, I want to be perfect in every single thing I'm doing. However, when something interrupts that perfection, then that hurts me in a certain way. So it's looking for the most sustainable way around what we're doing rather than looking for the perfect way for it to always happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whether I'm talking about mental health or performance-based psychology, either way, we'd say flexibility is a great sign of strength.
Yeah.
So actually being able to be flexible and to be able to push back an expectation of yourself, to adapt your rhythm and habits, that's a sign of health. And so we do want to aim towards that. Good to stick to what you want to do. Don't just sit on the couch and then ignore all your commitments.
Of course.
But being flexible is really important for base health, but also really important for getting like big goals out of life, performing well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when we originally met, you were termed the burnout psychologist, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And you said recently, I don't think I've been the burnout psychologist for a while now. So what has shifted for you?
So I've always been a clinical psychologist. That's my professional title and standing. Well, I think that's the way I think about things. That's the way I help people. And then when I started doing my independent practice, I wanted a way to communicate what I do easily to bring people in, branding, marketing. And I picked the burnout psychologist because so much of my work was and still is about seeing people who work extremely hard, who have lots of coping strategies that work very well for them most of the time, but who find themselves pushing their limits and find themselves struggling with their health, their physical health, their mental health, and they need some help and support. So the burnout psychologist was an amazing opportunity to kind of get I think it's a really helpful word where people can kind of see that's me.
Absolutely.
And reach out to me. And I think as well, it's a little bit less stigma around something like burnout than perhaps saying, I'm struggling with anxiety, or I'm struggling with stress. Burnout feels, because it's a work-based thing, it feels maybe more accessible.
Yeah.
But what I've always found is my work always goes deeper than just habits and helpful tips in burnout. So I always ended up going to people, the roots of why they ended up there. My work's always about helping people with long-term, deep transformation. And so we'd always start with burnout, and then we'd drop into the deeper waters.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I used that name for maybe a year or more, maybe 18 months.
Okay.
And then there was a time I realized I was working with teams, and they were asking me about much more than burnout. I was working with my individuals, and it's always much more deeper than burnout. And I thought, somehow my name needs to reflect this is more than just this one thing.
Yeah.
And so that's why it evolved to be me as my personal brand, Dr. Matt Slavin, and my business brand, which is Mental Advantage.
Yes. So let's talk about mental advantage. When you say mental advantage, what do you actually mean to someone like me in plain English? Let's just say that.
So what it means is that organizations' greatest strengths our own greatest strengths are all based on, my belief are all based on our ability to show up in the way that we want, to manage situations how we want, and beyond skill in a workplace and beyond the bits that you have, the tools that you have at your disposal, it all comes down to the person, the human at the end of this. And so the mental advantage is, rather than thinking about any financial advantage or technical advantage, that actually your mind is your greatest advantage. And so my work is based on helping people understand themselves and training and giving the tools to get the most out of their mental faculties, their mind, and to build their own, to be the best version of themselves they can be. But if it's an organization, to help their staff be the best versions they can be. And my skill set is about how I help people with their psyche, their mind. So mental advantage.
So I know the world of instant culture and the world of social media now is filled with so many people giving some sort of advice. And there's a lot of performance-based content out there. So how would you say the mental advantage actually differs from that?
I think what mental advantage is based on is my many years of clinical psychology training. So we go to the real roots of, it really helps people firstly understand why they work and how they work. So rather than a manualized approach of this is a one size fits all, you need to do more of X. Instead, it's helping people understand themselves better so they know what their main priorities are, where's their biggest weaknesses. It's like, so what I do so I've got like a training course that I do, and part of that training course, every week we go through the different chapters of these 8 core elements to mental advantage. Is then there's a understanding this thing with relevance to you. So one of the examples is how you speak to yourself, your inner voice. So we need to think about how that responds to you, how that's relevant to you. I do an audit, so the person then evaluates themselves in relation to that theme, inner critic, or their stress response, and then it's skill building. So those are the big things I see that, or I often see that's limiting for people, is they're either given some information, but information without skill and ability doesn't work, or they're given the skill, but they're not given the understanding of why it actually matters and how to achieve the long-term change, or the right kind of approach to implement long-term change. And that's the skill set of being a clinical psychologist. So this is what my mental advantage gives, is maybe something a bit deeper, but maybe a bit fun as well. This stuff can be fun too.
And I love that because a lot of those performance advice or content is sometimes just dressed up as performance, but it's a lot of pressure as well. It doesn't actually get down to the root cause of why are we the way we are as an individual, as you, as a person. Why do you function that way? And there's a host of things that makes us up as human beings and the habits and patterns that we're used to being. And there's a lot of cycle that needs to change, and that one size fits all doesn't always work. So I love that you've been able to give a deeper understanding or breakdown into the mental advantage, because that's where it differs, right?
I had a really interesting chat on Tuesday. I was in New Zealand on Tuesday, and I had a coffee lunch with with the lead psychologist for high performance sport in New Zealand. So helping their Olympic teams and helping their international teams. So we had a chat about what the work's looking like and the direction of travel. And so his background is clinical psychology for sport, and we're talking about physical performance, how you get the very, very best out of a human being in the right mindset, the right physicality, keep training hard. And performance in that world is understood as the best thing we can do from psychology for performance is help people stay healthy, stay well, and manage the fundamentals. You can do that, people then are able to train hard, work hard,
Absolutely.
and keep committed and consistent.
Because they're not distracted by other things that are weighing them down, right?
Yeah. So when you think about performance, it could look like performance is do these things and you'll feel better. You'll be the best version of yourself. But actually, the fundamentals are really helping somebody stop themselves sabotaging, to help them, not do avoidance tactics, to help them stay focused where it matters, to help them rest where it matters, to help them de-stress, because stress is going to be a huge part of any performance task.
Yeah.
The bit that's also about like, here's what makes you 1% better. Actually, what we're working on mostly is like the foundations of understanding your brain, your survival instincts, and managing all of this involuntary reactions we have in our body that comes from our brain's wiring.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting talking to him and to see how our work's so aligned, that performance, even in the high-end sport, is really understood now as good psychological health. And I'd say the same to any listener. That's the same thing, that if you want to be the best version of yourself in whatever you do, having those good foundations of health, I work with psychological health, is the way to be the best version of yourself.
Oh, thank you for that. And I think that leads on nicely into my next question. And I was wondering, from your experience, a lot of high performers, they look strong on the outside, and underneath, we kind of know sometimes that they're running on old survival techniques that aren't really helping. What are some of those old survival techniques? What do they look like?
So many things. So it could be something like things that once made you strong. They all come from a reason. We all come from good instincts, and actually we probably learn these things in childhood based on what life has given us. So things that might have got you to the point where of doing really well might be things like self-reliance as a coping strategy. If you felt growing up that it was hard to ask your parents for things, you got in the way by doing so, you become more self-reliant. Or another version of that might be performance-based success, or like competence. I need to be extremely capable. I need to do extremely well in everything I do. Perfectionism. So that might be something you learned early on. It might be people pleasing. It might be try to avoid conflict and try and find, I just need the best way to perform is to be liked by everybody. So it could be them or many more different strategies. But what we find is those things develop very early on in life. And when something works well, even if it's no longer useful, we have a hard time letting go of it.
Letting go, yes.
Yeah. So often what I find is when people come to see me, they're using strategies that have worked incredibly well for most of their life, but now they want to change or do something different. They want to let go of some things they find difficult, but that means changing some of these old patterns. And so it's like changing, you have to kind of acknowledge how and celebrate all these great survival tactics. They've got you to this present moment, but to move forward, to grow, you have to drop what you've learned along the way. And these things are often so hardwired. I said things like self-reliance or competence-based performance, or it's about people pleasing, or it's about emotional numbing, or about use of substances to try and do mind-altering things, or it's dissociation, or it's self-sabotage, whatever it is. You're not usually all that aware of it. Or if you are aware of it, you just don't know how to break free of that cycle, because it's just how you end up doing when things get really difficult.
And you touched on it just now, but you've said previously that the strategy that helped someone become successful isn't always the one that can sustain that success. Can you unpack that a bit more for us?
So if I think of a client who runs a very successful business now, a huge part of that was huge pressure he placed on himself to prove to himself and prove to others that he was capable of great achievement. And that meant sacrificing some areas of life and pushing harder than everyone else did and giving it his all. But now that the business is going really well and life is looking pretty good, he can't continue that because it doesn't actually make him happy anymore to work that hard and to also miss out on the things that to miss out. So he's incredible. So that man is very self-reliant, but so he has to then consciously think, now I want a better life, which is more about enjoying the richness of life, which means I need to let go of things, which is hard to then give over responsibility to others and trust they'll do it their way. To change thinking from I need to look after all these different parts of anything that I affect in my life to taking a different role. That might mean resting more. That might be being a different version of yourself. Might be spending more time as a family. All those things are going to come initially, actually. That change that's going to be what you want now is going to bring up a lot of discomfort. It's going to feel worse before it feels better by starting to be different. Even when people come to me and they say, I want to feel less anxious, or I want to be less stressed, or I want to grow in my career, or I want to do this great, exciting thing, but I'm worried how the world's going to perceive me and it holds me back and I'm scared. Whatever it is, people have a goal in mind. And as we start moving towards it, it always brings up all the horrible stuff, because change is always uncomfortable, even when it's what we want. And that is the time where we need to work together, or you need the tools, the self-understanding, to stay steady in the storm. You need to survive the storm of going through real emotional difficulty, self-doubt, uncertainty, inner critic, pushbacks and setbacks, and survive the course. And when you can survive the storm and you survive the storm towards where you want to go, what happens is that you habituate to the stress of it. You go, okay, well, I'm quite used to now putting myself out there. And your beliefs start changing only through real life experiments. So the belief changes of, maybe I'm more confident than I think I am. Just convincing yourself through language. If you looked at yourself in the mirror and said, I am a confident person, you wouldn't believe it. But if you go out to the world and you do these things and you hold steady through this new boundary, you then have real life evidence that you've been through that shows you, well, I was able to do that. And we're far more convinced through reality and experience than we are through self-talk. Self-talk's important, but you can't beat real life experience.
And it's and forgive me, it might be a bad analogy, but I know you will correct me because you're the expert, but it's almost a bit like trauma as well. Like, so your body learns something, and that's how over time it learns how to deal with that thing. So it's like having that experience as well. You want to have those positive experiences so that your body is used to doing that.
So we know now that our body remembers so much. So our body, we might say our nervous system, in our cells, we remember how we do things. So our brain is a great repeater of past behavior. So if we go back to sport as an example, if you've ever played basketball and you shoot hoops and then you do it a certain way and then your coach says to you, actually, you need to change your technique. You're going to get worse before you get better, and you're going to automatically do the same way you've been shooting that hoop every single time until you've had so many repetitions, your brain starts to rewire. And so any behavior change, whether it's sport or whether it's behavior change or habit change, whether it's going in a new course of life, what we're really saying is we're rewiring your brain and also your body's conditioned response. And in order to make something your new normal, your new habituated response, your automatic response, you need to do so many repetitions of that thing that your body's unlearned its original previous thing. And so my metaphor for this is like, I like metaphors. So imagine you want to get from one side of a field to another, and you've got a route. If you've walked the same route 100 times and it's long grasses, that piece, the route you would have walked, would have been all flattened. And it's very easy to walk the same route. And next time you want to cross the field, you go, well, I'll walk the same route because it's easy. I know where to go. So that might be the same coping mechanism you use. You might go to alcohol, you might go to distraction, you might go to numbing. I just know that route. It helps me get to the other side when I need to. But then one day you say, I want to do something different. I want to choose something healthier. I want to choose a better version for my life. You don't know actually how to get there. You just know you want to get there. So you have to cross this field walking through long grasses, and you're going to get stumbled and you're going to get turned around. But eventually you will find the other side. It will take a long time, and it'll feel clumsy and it'll feel messy. Now, the next time you do it, you'll see your own footprints a bit. The third time you do it, you'll see a small path. The fourth time you see it, you'll see a track. And eventually you'll see a highway. And that's the same with how our neurons connect in our brain about our neural circuitry. We're looking to rewire the brain through making fast, myelinated neural pathways, which means you got to repeat. You actually have to do this thing over and over again. And each time you stumble, you keep going, you will change.
Yeah.
Change is possible.
And how does that apply to organizations? Because organizations are made of individuals, right? So we're aware of how individuals can work together or work with themselves to build a new way forward. How does that differ in organizations? Because it's not an arbitrary concept. It's not a thing that just exists. It's not just a body. It's made of people. So how do they go through that same process?
So the individuals need to do it, but in systemic talk, so systemic language, we talk about a system might be the body, the system might be a family, the system might be a team, an organization. We'd say the system always likes to return to homeostasis. It likes to return to the status quo. So I always remember seeing this example when I had my systemic training about having like a balloon. And if you had a balloon and you push one side of the balloon, you make an indent, the air has to go somewhere else. You're going to see it expand in another way and change. And so what you're doing here, when somebody says, I want to change this, or senior management, leader, or ground up says, we need to change what's happening here, this isn't working, they push the balloon and it will try to reshape. But everything in that system is going to want it to go back to the way it was. And so it can't be just an individual piece of work to change organizations. That's why actually part of the change in the burnout story was it can't just be the person to use better strategies to avoid burnout. The work culture has to change. And so the team's senior leadership, this is some of the work I do, is that we meet and I help consult with them around how do they communicate culture change? How do they think about actually rolling out different ways of being, how long people stay in the office for, how they get trust and buy-in from their teams, how they communicate the values that they want from their organization into actual real life work, and how people pick those up and work with them. And that culture change piece is the much harder piece than individual change in some ways, but such a bigger impact. You have to work with the system as well as giving people the tools to understand themselves and to manage themselves. Can't do one or the other. In my world, you have to do both. Otherwise, you leave someone stranded.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for that. We were talking before this about your newsletter, and I love your newsletters, honestly.
Thank you.
And you guys, if you're not subscribed to Dr. Matt's newsletter, you should go read it. It's straight fire. But one thing I read from your newsletter is the idea that rest can actually feel unsafe for some people. Why is that?
So imagine if you've lived a whole life where being competent, being busy was a sign of you coping. So imagine growing up and you had parents who always questioning your academic reports. They always wanted you to push hard. There was a lesson in life that you grew up and you actually sitting down on your bum was lazy. Taking time to do something was a sign of weakness. Then you learn we all start to internalize voices we hear early on, and we start to learn experiences. So what can often happen is people say, I'm so stressed and I want to slow down. I want to be better at resting. And when they start doing it, what shows up is just this feeling in their body that this doesn't feel right. And very quickly, people will often say things like, I'm just bad at resting. I'm no good at resting. Actually, we want to reframe that as I'm not used to resting in this way, or it feels uncomfortable to rest in this way. Once we get that and we can understand where did it come from, and do you still want to do that? Is it still relevant? If they say no and they understand where it comes from, then we can start to then catch this pattern. And that's often the skill here of often come back to people who've spoken better than me. Viktor Frankl is a psychoanalyst and great author. His book, Man's Search for Meaning, is a well worth read for anyone in this world. And he says, at one point in the book, he says, between stimulus and response, there is a gap. And in that gap lies our freedom. And what he's saying is between events in this world and how we respond to it, how we interact with it, there is a mental gap. We're not really aware of it. But if we can pay attention to that gap, then we have great freedom over our lives.
Absolutely.
So in these moments where my game I play with some of my clients is like a game of whack-a-mole where you have to, something pops up and you have to whack it down. The game is when you notice old thoughts, old habits, critical voices show up in your mind. The game is not to suppress it, but to press the button which says, I notice you.
Yeah.
I see you. So when you say, don't rest, it's lazy. Right, I noticed that. My brain is telling me the story that being resting right now is lazy. I'm noticing that right now my mind is saying, Matt, you've got 3 hours free. You should be catching up on things rather than resting. Noticing it more and more, like Viktor Frankl says, the more you can notice it, you then, in neuroscience terms, once you notice and put language to something, we're not being driven by our base instincts and fear, we're being driven by neocortex, we're driven by language, which means that's the rational part of the brain. It's also the part of brain that can, our executive functioning part of our brain, I'm pointing to the front of my brain, which is the part of our brain that can manage impulse, can manage difficult feeling. The part of our brain that can says, it's going to feel really uncomfortable to actually switch off today because I know I have to prepare for that meeting, but I want to be with my family and I need to find a way to park this for the next 12 hours. Once, that's only possible through noticing it, catching it. And like I said, so that's the self-awareness piece. But secondly, having the tools and skills to be able to catch it, and then also the tools to let it go. And we're not taught those skills.
We're not. Because a lot of people, myself included, were used to feeling something or knowing that something is different to how we want to act in that reality. And we just glance over it and we just move on, or we sink deeper into that thought. But I love that you're saying, acknowledge it, acknowledge it's there, give it the space, and then actually carry on with what you're doing because that's what is right for you in that moment.
That's it. The acknowledge piece is so key. It's the bit that most people, it's the hardest part.
It is.
The hardest part is to notice it and acknowledge it. And then there's skills, and there's lots of different skills so you can learn. There's like grounding skills. There are diffusion skills and thought management skills, which is all about techniques and how you manage thoughts and feelings arise in the body that you don't, that to not feel so automatic about them. Great world of work that we've learned in psychology and how to manage all this world. So I'm sure you can Google it. We might talk more about it, but you might want to seek an experienced professional to help you find the right tools for you.
Yeah, because there are those tools available. And just like life, if you don't learn it, they don't automatically come to you. It's something you have to experience. We've talked about your amazing analogy about the path, right? Just doing it once is not enough. It's something you need to go back to all the time, especially because those feelings that we have are recurring, right? They will come again. So when it comes, okay, last time I did this, I'm going to choose to do it again. I'm going to choose to acknowledge that thought. I'm going to choose to use a tool if that fits in this moment. But I find that sometimes some people have a feeling, they acknowledge it, they use the tool, and the next time they just expect that it's going to come back to them automatically, or they just expect that I crossed this last time, so I shouldn't feel this anymore. And it almost turns to disappointment. It almost links back to that perfectionism, thoughts that we have that we've done this once, it should be perfect, but that's not the case.
No, it's something I often talk about with clients to help them with their progress, is to remind them that progress is not linear, not in this world, not in when we're talking about our minds, is that you'll often find that you'll take a big step forward. It's like a stepped change. You find like nothing really changes. You're working really hard. You're trying to be different. You're trying to make life better for yourself. You're trying to show up different in your romantic relationship. You're trying to manage your emotions better. You're trying to get better at your confidence in public. And you're like, I just is going all the same. And then suddenly one day you will notice suddenly a marked step. Other people might have noticed bits around it, but you'll notice it. And you go, how great. I'm making progress. This is great. But of course, something will set you back. And it can often feel like one step forward, 2 steps back. But instead, what it actually is, it's like a big step forward and a small shift back. And there'll be a while when that doesn't feel like any progress has been made. And then you'll make another big step forward. And so you're right. You have to stay committed to this. And you also, it's helpful to have somebody else, your partner, a teammate, a best friend, a professional who helps you see what you can't see about yourself and to help you strategize how you get from A to B. We
can't be mirrors of ourselves, right?
We can't. We can't. Even the best of us. I'm a therapist. I'm a psychologist. I have my own team who I go to help me understand myself. Actually, to be a psychologist in the UK or most places in the world, you need to go to supervision every month, which is to go to someone more experienced than you, someone who's better than you in what you do, and every month bring your questions, and your supervisor's job is to challenge you, to get you to think about yourself, think about how you're working, think about what you're working with, and you're never allowed to just rest into everything's fine, I'm doing okay. Yes. They challenge us to look at the things in ourselves that we can't see, and they challenge us to look at ourselves clearly in the mirror. And that's the thing about having a psychologist for performance or for mental health, is that what we do is we shine a mirror and we help you see things about yourself which you can't see. But secondly, we're there with you. So we're actually going to help you get to where you want to go, instead of maybe you see the things in the mirror, you get the self-awareness piece, but then you think, oh my goodness, now I see this thing about myself, which I don't like. I have no idea how to change this. So there's also the ability to think, well, you'll work with someone to move forward from it. Yeah.
And you touched on it a little bit, but talking about the research that has been done in psychology and just asking the question generally, why does it feel worse? So for example, if you're choosing to rest and you're not someone who's used to that, why will it feel worse before it feels better?
Any new experience that we go through will be treated in our brain as something uncertain. Okay. So once we get into anything that's uncertain or doubt, some really kind of core human emotions, these things trigger in our brain the same threat response as if it is a real dangerous thing that might actually physically hurt us.
Oh, wow.
So our ancient design, I often talk about how our ancient brains have evolved for this modern world or haven't, is that our brain is hierarchical, more or less, and it will run on first things first, keep you alive, keep you safe. Now, that ancient architecture in our brain is always scanning for threats. That used to be threat, that used to be physical danger, someone running towards you and trying to hurt you, or a dangerous landscape where we need to be careful about how we navigate it. But the part of our brain that then looks and evaluates that, then sends signals to our brain. It says, oh, there's a saber-toothed tiger. The amygdala, the threat center, is our alarm center. It then sends signals to our HPA axis, which gives adrenaline, noradrenaline. It stimulates things like fight, flight, freeze, flop, all those things.
Of course,
It does all that. But because it's ancient in design and we live in a modern world, it cannot distinguish real threats from socio-emotional threats. So someone potentially breaking up with you, someone's changing tone in the workplace and you think they're unhappy with you, change in your organization at work where you're worrying about your career advancement or your mortgage prospects. Those will stimulate the same ancient architecture in our brain, which is all about life and death. So these things might not be life and death situations, having a fight with your spouse, but it will trigger the part of your brain that will see it as life and death. So when you go to change, we're going to uncertainty. Anything that stimulates that part of the brain is stimulating the life or death threat part of the brain. So these things will automatically feel deeply uncomfortable. To a lesser or greater degree. Then, like I said, the tool is that you need to survive the storm, or in psychology would say you have to habituate to that intense emotion. The more that you're in it and used to it, the less intense the feeling is. So whether that's doing work with someone who has OCD or has a phobia, often part of that work is exposure. So exposure to something that we find scary, and then staying with that exposure long enough to reduce the intensity of the fear. And your body learns, oh, it's not quite so bad. Oh, also I can survive that. Or maybe I can do that a bit longer next time. And that's the same thing with uncertainty and change. That the more you do something that's initially uncomfortable, the easier it feels. And it's amazing how 5 years later, the one thing you said I couldn't do, it was impossible, it just feels impossible, would have been so scary to stand on stage and do a big seminar. Then 5 years later, you go, oh yeah, no, this is just something I do.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, wow. Okay. And I guess that's why when you said that the time in between the stimuli and our reaction, that is the most important time. And that's where our development and our change is, because that's what's important, because our brain can receive the stimuli as something is coming, the biggest danger is going to happen, but it could be irrational. right? It's how we then process that, which is slowing our bodies down, thinking about it, accepting it, using the tools at our disposal, and then reacting, which then shows that we've, done that work in ourselves. Yeah.
Yes. Well, exactly. What's the difference between excitement and fear? They're very similar experiences, and the main difference is the story we tell ourselves. So if you want to go on a roller coaster, you could tell yourself the story. This is so exciting.
Because you're still scared. You still have that
right? So
pit in your chest that is
we understand our body's experience through reading sensation. So the sensations of going on a roller coaster and being excited or scared, two events, excited or scared, the sensations are going to be the same. You'll sweat, your heart will race, your breathing will be shallower, your body might shake, you might find yourself tongue-tied.
That's so true.
Before you go on to stage and do a big seminar, it's really important to you. But the difference is the story you tell yourself. So whether you're fearful or whether you're excited is going to be about what your brain is telling you. And so once we know that, then we also think, well, maybe there are some tools you can learn which helps you recognize the story as it shows up and to slowly reframe that story.
Yeah.
That my brain is telling me that I'm scared right now, but actually I can do this. Or reframing, or maybe I'm a little bit excited. It might actually, you might have read it wrong because it's very hard to distinguish some of these bodily sensations. So you're right that being aware of that internal world, interoception, our ability to accurately read our sensations in our body, hunger, hot, cold, but also interoception is the formation of emotional maturity, emotional literacy. If I can read my sensations well, that heart beating really fast and the sweatiness and the racing thoughts, if I can read that accurately to actually what it is for me, then you have more power to think, well, I need to calm myself down. Or I need to talk to myself in a certain way. Or I need to let this go because this is great. I need to run with this excitement. And not hold it back. That self-awareness is transformational.
No, I love that. That period, I think for me, what's sticking in my mind is just the period between getting that stimuli and finding out what you want to do with it before reacting, because we're in such a reactionary world. It's all about something's happened, you have to do something, but we don't take a lot of time to sit and think and even process, right? And I wonder what your opinion is on this. I feel and I believe that a lot of these processing can be done after the fact. So spending time with ourselves, it could be at the end of the day, sitting down and looking back on everything that's happened throughout the day. How have we reacted? What could we have done differently? What is your opinion on doing that?
If I go back to your former point about how everything's so automatic, so fast-paced, well, that's because that's the way the brain has been designed. So the brain has evolved knowing that it doesn't have the time to think through responses. That's the front part of our brain. It doesn't have time to going through it, somebody asks something of you and you need to respond. You don't have time to go to your partner, a teammate, a spouse and go, well, maybe here's the pros, here's the cons.
What do you think?
You need to respond in an instant. And that's because our brain hierarchically evolved, firstly for danger, and danger moments usually need split-second reactions. So we will always go to instinct and go to automatic behavior faster. So you're not always going to catch yourself when you go through something. So you're going to have to be kind to yourself and say, I didn't find the words that I wanted. I slipped up. I said the wrong thing. I shouted at my colleague. I shouted at my wife, whatever it is. So that you need times after the fact. That's what you're saying is, yes, absolutely. It's not possible to always be self-monitoring because that also gets in the way if you're always self-monitoring.
It slows down a lot of decisions as well that you might need to make really quickly. Okay.
So you need time separately. That's why journaling can be so helpful. At the end of a day, asking yourself questions, which you then write some responses to. Speaking, having a debrief after a difficult meeting. You have someone else and you all sit together and you go, what has happened there? How did that end up happening in this way? Or talking so much with your loved one at home. It's so important. Or going to a therapist or a psychologist and saying, this week, this thing happened. And I don't want that to happen again. I need to make sense of what happened. And how I want to do it differently next time. After the fact is great. Even better is before the fact. If you could think through, I tend to do these things, and I'm sure there's going to be another time again where
how do I change it? Yes.
So how do I need to prepare for that before it actually happens?
Okay.
Yeah.
And just a personal question from me, because you've kind of touched on it a little bit. I feel like there are two different types of people in this world. Of course, there's so many different types of people, but on this particular issue, there's some people that love and can journal, and there's some people that just can't. I'm in the camp of those that just can't. My wife, she can journal for hours a day, and I find it as such an important part of debriefing your life and being able to think and figure things out. What is your advice to people like me who just can't journal, who just don't find any interest in it whatsoever? Are there other tools that are as powerful as journaling? I go for a walk and I use that to think, but she has an incredible ability and tools of being able to look at what she was thinking about 2 years ago or a year ago. I just wondered what your thoughts is on that.
I'd say every person will have a different learning style. Every person has different coping strategies we lean towards.
Yeah.
So find the version that works for you, but in the same category. So if it's about reflecting on your experience, some people are more language based and will want to see written word. So some people find that very easy. Some people are more experiential based. So they'll want to do something more physical or active about it.
Yeah.
So you might want to go for a walk and just think about it. Some people's attention spans are different. So some people may write 7 pages of continuous flowing notes. Other people might say, I want to be more concise and to the point. That's the way my brain works. And so they would write out 3 key questions. Like at the end of the day, you could keep it as simple as, what went well today? Okay. What did I find difficult? What did I learn from what went well and what went difficult? You could keep it as simple as that. Within 5 minutes, 3 minutes, you could write something down. Some people are better at visual prompts than written prompts. So you might have you might need a prompt that's like a visual thing each day that's like in your diary. You might just see it to actually like remember to do it.
Yeah.
Or some people are better with speaking things out rather than writing. So you might record a note on your phone or something like that, where it's actually talking to something.
Yeah.
You got to adapt and find the way that works for you.
Yes. Yeah.
And journaling or writing or reflecting is just one method of being a self-aware person.
Yeah.
You got to find the version that works for you. You know, equally, you might want to go to your yoga class, your workout, sit on the bike, and you might just say, do you know what? I'm going to use this time to just kind of have a think through and look through the day.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be so structured. And that's also okay as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. So Matt, you've said that insight isn't the same as change. So if understanding yourself isn't enough, what actually helps people change?
So you do have to do the insight bit as part of it. You do have to try and understand yourself and to, as we're saying, spend some time in your life reflecting on yourself. It's good. That's really important. But to create change, you need to do something different.
Yeah.
It sounds really basic, but you can't just think your way through to change.
Yeah.
Our brains do not work like that. Based on all the things we've said so far, whether it's the automatic processes, whether it's the survival part of your brain, we need to do something different, have all the feedback of what you learned along the way, and from that, survive the storm.
Yeah.
From that, learn it can be different. Have all the experimental evidence of what did happen when you did it differently, and to adapt in kind. So it's the painful thing that wanting to change isn't enough. Knowing what you need to change isn't enough. So I've had plenty of people in my life, clients and myself too, times where people would say, oh, I really understand this thing about myself. But I don't do anything different. So might be somebody says, I really understand. I'm really hard at saying no.
Yeah.
Really hard at boundaries. And they go, I know where it comes from. They could talk to you at length about where this came from in their story and how it rolls out and how it shows up in them and the feelings and the triggers. And yet, because they haven't done anything different, next time it happens again, their old kind of circuitry, just their same neural architecture goes, well, I'm in this situation. I know what to do. Do the same thing. And so they'll end up saying yes when they mean no, finding it really hard to hold the boundary. And the only way through it is through physical behavior change.
Yeah.
But I think I've written a newsletter on this somewhere, which
Yes,
it's this bit. I think there's another newsletter that also says it's not only about change and doing things differently. You also have to reflect on what happened when you did it differently.
Okay.
So in order to really accommodate change, go back to something like sport, because it's quite easy to see. If you want to change the way you're throwing a javelin or shooting a hoop, that you need to do something different. Think about what you need to do differently, then do something differently. Then
think about.
You need to look at the results. When I did it that way, it went further.
Yeah.
When I did it that way, it was more accurate. Oh, when I tried this, it was meant to be better, but I'm not yet there yet. Not that I learned some more evidence. So you need to spend the time weighing up and reflecting on what happened when you made changes. So insight plus behavior plus reflection. That is going to lead to long-term change.
Yeah, basically like a 3-step process.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Just to make it simple.
Yeah,
just to make it very
keep it simple.
Yeah. So for someone who's carrying a lot, what does psychological strength actually look like in daily life?
So what does it look like? If someone is carrying a lot, it would look like... Psychological strength would look like being able to admit to yourself or to others, firstly, that you are carrying a lot. So a sign of a healthy system, a sign of a healthy person is being able to talk about the things that are unhealthy.
Yeah.
So firstly, saying this isn't working, it's too much, or I'm doing so great, but I can't do this forever. That would be a good sign of health.
Okay.
Another sign of good health would be to be able to make changes, do things differently in the view of what you want out of life. So valued aligned living, which means managing the emotional difficulty of doing something different. So that would be being psychologically flexible, saying, okay, well, I might give over some responsibility. I might slow down. I might choose to say to myself that done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
Something that's different than you've been doing, but with two things in mind. One is that it's value aligned. It's actually what you want for yourself, importantly, deep down. And secondly, that you're able to manage the emotional discomfort that comes from it. Because it's going to feel horrible if you're always self-reliant to then, or do everything yourself, to then people to see you and think, it seems like they're struggling, or they've asked me for help. They never asked me for help. Or that piece of work from them, like, it wasn't flawless. It was amazing, but it wasn't flawless. And that's going to be hard for somebody if they're used to always being all powerful, all good, all busy.
So for someone watching this or listening to this today who is carrying a lot, where would you ask them to start this week?
I'd ask them to start with two things. Kindness to yourself. Be kind to yourself. How we talk to ourselves is so important. It's the voice you hear more than anyone else's voice.
That's true.
And if you talk to yourself with criticism or you talk to yourself with kindness, you will feel it either way. So I'd firstly say to yourself to be kind, even when you're not liking what you're doing or you're finding it hard. Be kind that you're trying, that you're working, that you're trying to make this happen. And secondly, I would invite you to give yourself permission. Again, we feel as though we need permission from others to be less impressive or to get things wrong or to work less. But actually, we need to give ourselves permission to do these things. So I think it's also, and I write a newsletter about this, you can go back and have a read of it, that it's really important to actually write out to yourself your permission statement that I'm going to allow myself with complete... free of guilt. Although I know it will be there, I will listen to the guilt, but I won't let it ride me. I'm going to give myself permission, allow myself to insert what you need. It can only be that you that tells it. But kindness and permit yourself to show up how you want to.
And just in terms of where you are now and what you've seen, let's say in the last month or so, what permission do you think people need to give themselves today?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay. Maybe I'd like people to hear to give themselves permission to stop. Give themselves permission to pause. Just take a breath. It's okay. It can wait. The world won't end. You can take a moment.
Oof.
Then pick it up. It will be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just take a moment.
Gosh, I love that. So, Matt, I ask everyone who comes on the podcast this question, and I really want to ask you as well. Okay. What is life asking of you right now?
Life is asking for me to be patient. I think that's what it's asking of me. I find it very easy to do lots because I'm a very curious person.
Yeah.
And I like to do lots of different interesting projects. But I really feel like life is telling me right now that be patient and slow down my timelines. Things that I expect or have planned for the next year, I need to push back think about it for the next 2 years. Things that I might want to do the next 6 months, the next year to 2 years.
Wow.
And actually allow myself to just actually be and enjoy this experience of life. That's what this move has really shown me. This is what I'm really trying to practice. And it's hard because it means saying no to fun and exciting things.
Yeah.
I have to be really aware of that. And I have to work at that. I've written myself permission statements that says I'm not allowed to say yes to anything new until June this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's almost like for me, when I hear that, I just hear the fear of missing out. And I'm just like...
For sure. I might do.
What am I going to... And that's okay, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to miss out on some things if it means that you're not causing a degradation of yourself.
Yeah. And I'm going to find that hard. I am going to find that hard because I like talking to people and I like saying yes and I like doing things. But I think I've got I've got my own support and my own support figures. I've got my performance coach. It helps me think about my next 5 years, 10 years. That was a huge turning point when I started looking more than this year. I started looking 10 years ahead, and I thought, well, what's really important to me? What am I actually going to regret in 10 years' time doing or not doing?
Wow.
And actually, for me, my time with my kids is so important to me.
Absolutely.
And so I stop work every day at 2:00 so I can be with my kids. Wow. I start work very early. But
balance.
But the balance is, if I did more, I would have less time with my kids. If I did more, I wouldn't be swimming, I wouldn't be rock climbing as much. And actually, when I'm in my 40s, in my 50s, I know actually the work will be there anyway. I will do all this stuff. I will catch up. But I know what's important most to me. And so, yes, being patient, things can wait, do what matters most to me in my life. I'd say the same to others, but, work out what matters most and then keep to those things because it's precious. Life is precious.
Yeah. And it's prioritizing things that you can't get back, the time that you can't get back. Your kids will never be the same age they are this year.
No.
You're never going to spend that much time with them because they're going to be older. They're going to have their own lives and their own friends and their own partners. And I when I asked that question, I know I was expecting, but hearing it, I think it's hit me to actually hear you say prioritizing what's important to you, giving yourself permission to say no.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything you would like to add as we bring the episode to a close? Anything you would like to plug or talk about?
Well, Well, I would just encourage anybody that is looking for help and support, wants to be the best version of themselves, is that reach out to somebody, because it's so much easier to get to where you want to go when you have a guide, a facilitator, an expert. And that can be something that's just a good peer that you keep yourselves accountable to. It might be you want to reach out to a skilled professional. So I'd encourage anyone listening to think about what they want and to do that. If nothing else, definitely follow my newsletter.
Absolutely. Honestly, they're so good. Like, I only subscribe to like 3 newsletters. And every time yours comes out, I'm like, okay, sitting down, reading it.
Oh, thank you.
I talked about this one before the podcast started, but the one about the message in a bottle, people can't get older newsletters, can they? No, they've messed up.
But I use all of my newsletters are then put onto my website as a blog form. So
lovely.
You could go back and read them all through again, actually.
I'm going to put Dr. Matt's link into the descriptions of the videos. So please go to his website, go to the blog post and look for the one. Start with the one with the message in a bottle. I think that's my favorite. I don't know why, but I love it. I love the way you write as well. And obviously it shows that you love writing. So yeah, I appreciate that. Dr. Matt, thank you so much. I do want to say that you are the only guest that I'm having back on from season 1, not just because of how amazing you are, just because it felt so right and it fit so well, and the message and the timing. And I'm so grateful that you've been able to make this work. I know you're extremely busy, but thank you for honoring us with your presence. I'm so grateful. And even my wife sends her gratefulness and her thanks as well, because she was supposed to be here, but she couldn't be here. And a lot of people know, because if you've been following the channel for a while, you would know that she reviews a lot of the questions and the guest list. And when we were talking about season 2, she was like, oh, you have to get Dr. Matt back. And I was like, oh, he's in New Zealand. And that's when I texted you, like, well, I'm in London these times. I was like, oh, perfect. Look how everything works out. So I just want to say thank you so much again. I really appreciate that. I hope you've enjoyed the change of scenery, being in person this time.
Really nice. It's always better to be with somebody. It's lovely to be here with you. Really,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, everyone, thank you for watching. I hope you have an amazing morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are. This has been the Modern Journey podcast, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye.